Brandon here. I'm a channeler and an intuitive, and this is going to be episode 2 of the Channeling Source vlog. And it's about actually having versus not having, or rather, having versus just keeping up appearances of having. Pretty simple. And, if you were interested about me, there's more about me in the description and my website and things like that. However, I noticed a turnaround for me, and this was a while ago. This was years ago, honestly, where I really started doing this when I intentionally stopped putting effort into just trying to look a certain way, look like I had certain things, looked like I was something that maybe I wasn't, and put that effort and that attention and that work and energy instead into what will it take for me to actually have the things, to have the things I'd like to have, to be the things I'd like to be. For example, an example that comes to me is growing a following on social media. A lot of people like to, this is the example that's coming to me, look popular or look like people like them or look like they're successful or have money are some of the common examples. And some people put a lot of effort into trying to maintain the appearance of that. Some people put themselves into huge amounts of debt, financing a Mercedes or a sports car or whatever to look rich to other people. And it's funny because I just recently saw a comment somewhere that kind of emphasizes something else that might be good to say here is a lot of people just don't care. They're like, oh, cool, a Mercedes. Or some people might be like, oh, a rich a-hole in a Mercedes. Or some people might be like, oh, awesome, bless you in your abundance and your Mercedes. However, if you don't like authentically have the money to like finance or own that Mercedes with ease, you're kind of just burdening yourself to keep up an appearance and taking a lot of money, effort, time, and stress. It's causing you stress you don't need to have. And it's also taking money, time, effort away from what you could have been doing to actually have the like whatever it would have taken to actually have the money, like the investments or whatever, to have that Mercedes with ease and authentically be somewhere where you were wealthy, whether you chose to drive a Mercedes from that standpoint or not. So if this is resonating for you, and not all of you are probably going to be coming from this place. How much energy, if any, are you wasting or utilizing? And how much like attention and focus are you wasting and utilizing to try to maintain an appearance somewhere when you could just be actually maneuvering towards having that thing, even if it took time? I know it's not an instant gratification thing sometimes to actually cultivate wealth, for example, or actually cultivate something you'd like to have. But that's kind of the key is, are you trying to get to the instant gratification of appearing like you have something, or are you trying to have are you working towards and aiming towards and maneuvering towards having an authentic experience you genuinely truly like to have? And this can also take you being honest with yourself with what you'd truly like to have, not people pleasing with what you think others would think would be cool if you had, but authentically getting to your truth, what's true for you, what your soul is saying, even what your intuition is saying, even what your heart is saying, and just what you actually know. And by knowing, I mean more intuition, what you'd like to have. So, again, that's going to save you a lot of wasted effort if you're just actually maneuvering towards it. And it, for some people, can take a certain amount of humility, maybe, to admit where they actually are with things before they move towards something they'd like to have. However, you're probably gonna have a much better chance of getting there if you are willing to just let go of the ego or humble yourself. If I hesitate to use that phrase, humble yourself, but that's kind of how it came out, I guess. Or at least just put it on hold for a second and just be like, where am I actually at? And what will it actually take for me to get to what I'd actually like to have? Because I promise you, the authentic experience of actually having what you'd like to have is going to be so much more fulfilling and enriching and enlivening than the stress of trying to play to other people's judgments and projections and pander to people's judgments and projections. And you probably won't get a whole lot out of that pandering if you put too much focus on it, anyways. And sure, like there's things you can do, like play with how you dress and see how that affects the way people treat you or the affects energetically like the interactions you have with people. That's a little bit different than like wasting your whole life savings to try to keep up an appearance and kind of ruining your life in a sense when it wouldn't even authentically bring you happiness. There was another thing I wanted to kind of talk about here for this episode as well. And it's kind of plays on that phrase you might see out there called moving in silence. And this does kind of tie in where if this is you, and it might not be all of you, how much time are you wasting like announcing things to people, even on like social media, or announcing your next big thing or announcing your next big move when again, you could be more focused on just actually having that thing and you're kind of moving in silence. For me, I've found it tends to work a lot better if I just do things and take the action and put it into place as I'm divinely guided and intuitively guided and put the puzzle pieces in place to for my path and for me to succeed and then launch things and then talk about things or I guess if you have like a business and like you're launching a product, sometimes you might want a month to put the word out about something and then you launch it a month later once you can have like pre-orders or whatever you're doing for that, and that's a bit different. But at that point you probably also already have the product ready to go or the project ready to go and finished or near completion, so you've kind of already taken action in silence to put the puzzle pieces in place. There's I'm not I would have to double check my intuition on like, is this 100% scientifically accurate? However, there was something I read somewhere that was along the lines of like, if you're planning on doing this thing, like taking a class, launching a business, doing a project, whatever, and you like announce it to the world beforehand and post it on social media, you kind of get the way the sciencey people kind of said it was you get the dopamine hit of actually having accomplished that thing, and you're much less likely to actually go out and do it. And much less likely to go out and authentically have the thing you said you would like to have or build or put out into the world, etc. So that may not be the 100% truth of what actually happens. However, you might have noticed that for whatever reason, if you just tell everyone you're going to do something, you're much less likely to actually do it or do it to completion. And there's some other directions we could go with this, like, but I would like to go where would be for the highest good to go, and I'm being redirected from some of those other areas. Let me see what would be best for me to say about this here, fully for the highest good. Hmm. What can you take action on without telling anyone? What can you maneuver towards without telling anyone? What can you authentically put into place without telling anyone that would lead you to your best life? And what action steps can you take with that? One last thing that I'll talk about when it comes to projects and things is there might be times where you actually are intuitively guided to tell a certain person or someone about a project you're working on, and they might have something that helps bring it to life or helps it come to fruition. For example, one time I was looking to do some work with some things I channeled through that needed some visual art done essentially or some visual work done, and I didn't have a lot of the tools that maybe would have been best for me to have to do that. And I was guided to tell someone, they're like, "Oh, well, I have this tablet you can use and it has this program on it that you can use. Here you go." So sometimes if you're guided to tell people, that can be part of a manifestation coming in or part of the universe trying to give you something to help it come to fruition. But other than that, really what I was looking to do with this is get you to look at, are you authentically maneuvering and taking action towards the things you'd like to have? Are you wasting time and effort in trying to appease people's judgments, projections, what they think of you, or maybe even people please in some way by not authentically having certain things you'd like to have, which maybe kind of ties into the moving in silence thing a little bit in a secondary way, though that might take more explanation. I would imagine that even if it takes, maybe it will happen right away and you'll know what to do and things will just click. Maybe it will take a little bit of time if you're adjusting to this, and that's okay. However, even if it takes 5 years for you to learn the things you need to learn, put the work into the things you need to put the work into, receive the things you need to receive, adjust the mindsets and belief system or whatever needs to be adjusted for you, or whatever needs to be adjusted energetically for you to authentically have, for example, money or a business or whatever. Wouldn't you rather actually have it, even if it takes time, and stop wasting that time and effort and energy and your life? That's your life, that you're choosing to use this way. If you're just wasting it trying to look a certain way, which most people are probably going to see through anyways. And are you willing to just do what needs to be done for you to actually have what you'd like to have? So I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. I feel like I've said this a million times. I hope that helped and resonated. One more thing here: you are worth it. Your life is worth it, even if it does take time and effort. And maybe it will, maybe it won't. I am wishing you the best life possible for you.